Hi guys, Marina Purkiss, the commentator and podcaster, appeared on the Jeremy Vine show where she took a call from a member of the public. Now he said that he didn't see any point in voting for the Labour Party as he saw no difference between them and the Conservatives. Marina said that comments like this triggered her and challenged the caller if they would like to see a repeat of the last 14 years. Marina pointed out that the Tories and Labour are very different. But is she right?
True, but I just think they're both as bad as each other. If Labour got in, they might steal some of the policies that...
Can I just ask a question, Jamie? Sorry, just because I always get triggered a little bit by when people say they're both as bad as each other. Because I understand, by the way, why you might be disillusioned with Labour, and I feel that too. But do you? We've had the Tories in power for 13 years. Do you honestly think that you can compare them and say they're as bad as Labour, who haven't completely tanked the economy, who haven't been completely corrupt in power, who haven't tried to undermine democracy and suppress votes and everything else I could go on to list? Can you honestly say hand on heart they're as bad as each other?
No, when you put it in that way, no.
It's a slightly leading question.
They're not. I think Conservatives are worse. When you put it in that way, yeah, they're not. They're a lot worse.
Fair, because you could throw in a couple of illegal wars and you're crashing the economy.
I agree with that, but we're not talking about the same party anymore.
I see. Okay.
And you can go back in history and say, look what's happened when Labour take over. They generally end up in financial chaos, bankrupt the country.
Which is where we are now.
You know, and we're not quite bankrupt, but I can't see it getting any better under a Labour Party with their policies.
We're at 100% debt to GDP, which we have never had before.
The country's not bankrupt.
Okay, the country's not bankrupt? This guy is a supporter of Liz Truss, I believe. Okay, now, it is a bit pointless comparing the current the current Labour Party with the Labour government of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. They're not comparable. And also, you can't judge Keir Starmer and his party when they haven't been in power yet. So you can judge them when they have been in power or towards the end of their parliament, but you can't, honestly, logically, we can't judge them because they haven't been in power yet. But if you want to compare the current Conservatives with the Labour Party when they were last in power, well, it doesn't bode very well for the Conservatives. So if we look, there are serious problems with Tony Blair's government when it came in, especially to foreign policy. I marched in Dublin against the war in Iraq, and I think this really damaged his reputation, and it will stay with him until the end of his days. But if we look at what the Labour Party actually achieved when it was in power, so for example, on social policies, they introduced the minimum wage, something the Tories were against at the time, and they overall reduced crime to a level of about 32%. So when they were in office for, 11 years, 12 years, they reduced crime by 32% and they introduced, for example, the minimum wage. On education, they reduced class sizes and improved the quality of education across the country. On the NHS, they achieved the shortest waiting lists in 40 years, and this was due to record investment and reforms. But what's happening with the NHS at the moment, the waiting list has gone through the roof at its highest level ever. The economy experienced 11 years of uninterrupted growth under Blair and Brown. Now, what this guy on the screen is talking about is, they crashed the economy. No, that was the global economy that crashed. It wasn't just what was happening in the UK. So it was happening all over the world. And of course, the UK couldn't avoid that. Sticking with the economy, for example, towns and cities around the UK, Birmingham, Leeds, Gateshead, benefited from new museums, art galleries, concert halls, and extensive property development under that Labour government, something the Tories are trying to close down via austerity. But generally, on economic policy, they granted the Bank of England the power to determine interest rates. On constitutional changes, they passed the Human Rights Act, and they granted Scotland and Wales devolution. The Good Friday Agreement, of course, is one of the biggest wins under the former Labour government. Now, was everything they achieved good? Or were there problems? Yes, there were problems, but we can't even compare what Labour achieved with what the Tories have done over the last 14 years. So I'm no fan of Tony Blair, but when it comes to domestic policies, a lot of them were good for Britain. Not perfect, but good. What the Tories have done over the last 14 years they have imposed austerity, Brexit, and they have damaged both society and the economy for decades to come. So, once again, I'm not a fan of Keir Starmer, but you have to allow him to get into power before you can judge what he has actually achieved. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.